Thank you, Gina. Well, I am a kind of person who is completely out this kind of deliberations. However, I'll just, as Bina has elaborated number of incidents and how the caste becomes an operative means of hegemony and also power control. Nevertheless, the disease of untouchability lies with the touchable community. It's not that the disease is with the untouchable community. It is a disease of touchable communities. The worst part is, I'm sorry to say that, but the worst part is the medicine in the form of policies is being given to the untouchable community and not to the touchable community. So they need to be sensitized. It's not that the untouchable community needs to be sensitized. Rather, the touchable community needs to be sensitized. Now, how do you conceptualize that sensitization? Likes of Kancha Elayya would like to say that there has to be a Dalitization of Indian society. I totally disagree with that kind of a logic. That is all nonsense. To me, Ambedkarization of Indian society is necessary. And not Dalitization. Because it is Ambedkar that becomes not only an icon of empowerment but also an icon of transformation. We want society to transform. We don't want society to remain in its antique form, in its antiquity. And that is precisely what Dr. Ambedkar explains in his Gokhale Institute lecture, that Gandhi is all antiquity. And therefore you cannot build nation on the basis of Gandhian ideas and ideals. But what is happening is that consistently the Gandhian ethos is being maintained, and today the epitome of secularism is judged only through the Gandhian lens and not through the constitutional lens. It is only recently the political scientists realized that constitutional secularism is very different than the Gandhian secularism. How that realization comes? That realization comes because there is a particular political party in power which is very vociferous, which is very hegemonic, which is very draconian in its outlook, in its functioning, and therefore the so-called liberal and seculars feel the heat, and therefore they feel suffocated, and they narrate their suffocation in a very different way, as if they are the victims of this great suffocation, repression, undemocratic nature of the society and the political institutions. In reality, these so-called touchable communities have been very much part of hegemony, very much part of this oppressive nature, and very much undemocratic in its functioning. So one has to see, even within these so-called touchable communities, when we talk about the lower ebb of the communities who also equally face discrimination, but their idea or their quest for transformation is all about savarnatva. So the सारे Indian society में it is all about savarnatva. And then how do you achieve that savarnatva? You achieve that savarnatva by killing Dalits, by killing Adivasi. Because you cannot get the status of Brahmin, no Brahmin will accept you as a Brahmin, as simple as this. So what is the way out? The only way out is you can become Kshatriya. So how do you become Kshatriya? You have to show your valor. How do you express your valor? So your valor is expressed only by means of committing atrocities on the Dalits and Adivasis. This is the nature of the psyche of the functioning of the Indian society. And this secularist and liberal do not see it as a problem. Caste is a disease of mind. Dr. Ambedkar said that Varna is a perversion. And that is the reason I say caste is a psychotic perversion. What we are doing or what we are experiencing or what we are basically functioning is all psychotic perversion. And there are different forms of psychotic perversions. They are enormous. They are anti-women. They are anti-human. They are anti-equality. They are anti-liberal. They are anti-equality. everything is very much anti. But those people who are part and parcel of that hegemonic group would not like to sensitize themselves. This is the biggest trouble we have in India. And the opinion, the so-called opinion, it is the minuscule minority, which is a numerical minority in India, which imposes its opinion on the larger public and makes it as a public opinion. So this whole idea of public sphere and public opinion, one has to understand the underlying agenda. And therefore, you will observe that whenever you become critical of your own belief system, when you critical of your own functioning of the society, whenever you become critical of the kind of conventions that are being followed in the different households, you feel you are attacked. Why you feel that you are attacked? What is the problem? Why don't you recognize this as a problem? They refuse to recognize this as a problem. And since they refuse to recognize this problem, you can't evolve a solution to it. Merely by there are a number of narratives which have become everyday part of the narrative of the discrimination. So the narrative in India is that of the living narrative of the discriminations all the time. It is that discriminations operates at a multiple level. And as one of the incidents she talked about American academic, all these people who are at the helm of the academic, the academic in not only in India but it is also in the world, I'm sorry to say. It functions more like a syndicate. At least underworld syndicate has some ethics. At least underworld syndicate has some ethics. They have this agreement that we will not touch your women, we will not touch your sisters, we will not touch your kids. There is a disagreement on this. But the academic syndicate absolutely has no ethics. It is the most immoral, most unethical society we have. And this becomes part of your everyday violence while creating a discourse. And what discourse you create? What is there any empowerment in the discourse? There is absolutely no empowerment in the discourse. So what constantly you are engaged is producing numerous protected ignorances, which you do not want to take it as a problem, which you do not want to address it as your own self-created hegemonic balloon. So you want to maintain that hegemonic balloon all the time. And then you say that, oh, I am taking it in a more critical way, in a highly different manners and so on and so forth. But I don't see none of these academicians or even otherwise also all this so-called intelligentsia of this nation, they have not produced critique of a self. Because to produce a critique of a self, you have to become a non-self. In order to understand the non-self, you have to become self, and in order to understand self, you have to become non-self. Where is that element of non-self? Take any name and show me the example. Whether is anything called non-self in there? I don't see anything. For me, politics is Ambedkar, anti-Ambedkar. Ambedkar stands for transformation. I'm not talking about the political party. I'm talking about the politics as such. Whereas anti-Ambedkar are the status quo. So what you do is all anti-Ambedkar politics, all the time. Whether it is this political party or that political party, including those who claim that they are Ambedkarite political parties. So the politics is more like competitive foolishness. That there is this competitive foolishness, one person has come, ruled for so many years, so there is another political dispensation who says that I also have a power and capacity to fool, and proved it that foolishness, and that foolishness continues. So it's all about competitive foolishness. The objective of the politics does not become a transformation. Similarly, the objective of the knowledge production process does not become transformation. Your objective is not that of a transformation at all. And therefore you constantly practice all kinds of stupidities of your life, which is insane, which is ghettoized thoughts, which creates more inhumanness, which makes society more violent, and then you enjoy the violence. So there is this perversion, and that perversion, you do not consider it, those touchable communities do not consider it as perversion. They consider it something like an orgasm. I'm sorry to make use of these words. But this is how their mental slavery functions, this is how their mental state of mind functions. Imagine in a place like JNU, where the graffitis is written Chamar go back or Chamar quit India kind of a things. Or even for that matter, let me also tell you, when the reservation was introduced at the faculty level for associate and professor level, there was a huge opposition within the JNU community. There were 33 signatures of the so-called faculty members who were professors and emeritus professors and all kinds of things. And we made a campaign against it, and we collected 160 signatures for the implementation of the resolution. We did not see that it is this category or that category. There are people who cut across this kind of a caste considerations and work for the society. There are people. However, let me also say that those who think that they need to create equality, they somehow never ever dare to teach their own brothers, their own sisters, their own society. And this becomes a biggest drawback. That they need to address the kind of inequalities that are being practiced by their own social group. It is must. Without teaching them, without sensitizing them, they cannot change. It's all the matter of consciousness. How do you see that consciousness? In India, consciousness is that of the consciousness of senselessness. Could Gandhi change that consciousness of senselessness? Or could any political power change that consciousness of senselessness? Whether the policies that are being implemented by the government of India for the citizens of the Republic of Government of India, could they change this consciousness of senselessness? The consciousness of senselessness continues. It was very much there. And it is being resisted only by the one who have some kind of an enlightened mind, where the minuscule minority of the citizens of Republic of Government of India think that the constitutional justice has to be prevailed, that has to be achieved. And without constitutional justice, you cannot have a democratic society. The democracy does not mean simply a political democracy where you will come and vote for one person. That is all nonsense, that is bakwas. And this bakwas has been very well articulated by Dr. Ambedkar when he was in the Constituent Assembly, that we are living in the life of contradictions. These contradictions are never addressed in everyday life. And neither we try to understand these contradictions and try to change, transform ourselves. So the transformation, the onus of transformation is always put on the untouchable communities. Rather, the onus of transformation lies on the touchable communities. And these touchable communities need to be sensitized, they need to change. See, it is very simple. If you want to see transformation in Indian society, the Shudra communities have to change because they are in large number. It is their responsibility to change and make the nation a progressive nation and a better nation and a developed nation. The onus does not lie on the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. They are numerical minorities. Not only they are numerical minorities, but they are under the abject poverty conditions. Whereas the Shudra communities are not living under the abject poverty conditions. And even if you go by the by the data that who are the people who have slipped into this below poverty line. It is better that you need to have this kind of a class census and see who has gone under that below poverty line. The scheduled caste never demanded that we should get a free ration. Tell me any scheduled caste ever in the country demanded a free ration. Was there a written, kind of a demand, or was it even aired in the parliament by the representative of the so-called scheduled caste and scheduled tribe member of parliament? You don't have. Absolutely none. So what they demand is equity. What they demand is equality. What they demand is parity. That we should also get empowered to earn that much and we can buy those things. That has been a demand. But the policies are being framed in such a way that you are constantly pushed to the margin. And therefore, we need to address these issues as problems of the communities and also problem of the mind consciousness. The policy does not change the consciousness of senselessness, let me tell you. I am of the opinion that your policies will not change any consciousness of senselessness. The consciousness of senselessness can only be changed through the righteous thinking and righteous education and the righteous mind consciousness. It is a necessary condition. Why can't we have a survey that how many people think aurat pair ki juti hai? Let us have a survey. Then you will come to know how much we have progressed and what is our achievement and how much we really respect the women in the society. Let us have it even among those touchable communities. And it is better to have a survey of these touchable communities rather than untouchable communities and the Adivasis. Have these kind of syndromes, study these kind of syndromes as a part of sociology, as a part of political analysis, as a part of your everyday functioning. And then you will come to know the real situation in India. And even those who go abroad, they carry the caste and they do the same thing, they practice the same thing. There is nothing distinct. That is the reason I always say that post-colonial is a fallacy. It doesn't produce anything. It has not empowered us anything. It is one of the bakwas which has been created on a philosophical ground, on a theoretical ground, and also on a practical ground. The nomenclature of post-colonial theory and the kind of epistemic violence that is being played out by these academic communities is gross violation of the constitutional justice. It's an outright violation. They are the most anti-human. They will never question their own belief system. They will never question their own customs. They will never ever question their own presuppositions. They will never analyze their presuppositions. Why don't they analyze their presuppositions? And that is why, friends, I say that it is more to do with the consciousness, and that consciousness needs to be changed. There are laws, we have laws, but it is not just the delivering of the judgment, whether you are delivering justice or not. It's not the delivering of the judgment. The courts are delivering judgment but not delivering justice. And this is very much there in the recent cases and as well as many of the cases. So we can't rely all the time on the courts. And therefore, the larger transformation agenda has to get into place. Caste census is also part of that consciousness. It is not something away from that consciousness. The structural discrimination is part of that consciousness. To reveal the structural discrimination is a part of that consciousness process. And therefore, we have to dismantle this whole idea of consciousness of senselessness to make society a better society, a better nation, a better. Thank you.
Thank you to our speakers for that enlightening talk and for shedding light on so many things. And I think one of the things that stands out is the that the onus should be not with the marginalized, but more the sensitization that is more needed is for the privileged. And on that note, I would thank our speakers on behalf of JNUSU, and I would now open the ground for any questions that the audience has for our speakers. Any questions?
Or implementing reservation among faculties. So can you